You're listening to a podcast from Dublin's Talking. Downloaded from sunshineradio.ie.
Sue Kelly from Browncow is live in studio. Hi, Sue. How are you?
I'm very well, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm great. Not a bother on me. Emma's joining us as well. Hi, Emma.
Morning, Lindsay.
How are you?
Good.
How's the week been for you, ladies?
We've actually had a good bit of fun this week. The guys in TK Maxx up in Carrickmines are raising some money for Enable Ireland, and they asked us would we provide waxing services for them to wax all the men who work in TK Maxx. So we thought, no problem. Like so what we did was we set up a baby salon really in TK Maxx last week, and we waxed the legs of all the guys up there, and believe it or not, it raised €1,000.
Fantastic.
I reckon that's because women will pay any money to watch a man suffer.
Do you know, I watched a piece on something similar on the One show, which is on BBC One every night at 7, and all of these women, they waxed their bosses. Yeah. They waxed their husbands. They waxed other people's husbands. Any kind of a man at all. Got it, right? But it wasn't just the legs, right? There was one guy, and he was so hairy. I mean, his whole back, you couldn't see his back, right? And she said she'd wax him. And all the wives, girlfriends, partners, whatever. And one person, why are you waxing your boss? And they said, payback. But then they did the 3, 2, 1, and it was waxed off. Oh, God almighty. It was like listening to a bunch of babies crying.
Now they know what we go through.
It's not a thing that men tend to do an awful lot, though, is it?
Well, interestingly enough, it's not a thing that men would talk about that they do quite a lot. Right. But we've got I suppose about 20% of all our business is men. And the most popular thing for men to do is, in the waxing, is obviously chest and back, but also monobrow. A lot of men don't like having the monobrow, they get that waxed. But we've also developed a fabulous little technique for nose hair.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's because, you know, if you've got a nose hair and you take a tweezers to it, it's very painful. You get watery eyes, and then you have to build up your courage to go for the next hair, and, you know, like, it can be a long old day if you do it that way. So what we've done is we've developed a way, if you take your finger and put it at one of your nostrils and pull it back.
Yeah.
And that's where the nose hair gathers. And what we do is we get a little bit of oil, we put it there, and then we get a small ball of hot wax. We press it on, and then while we're talking to you, it only takes a couple of seconds, we just pop it out, and that's it, finished, done.
Done and dusted.
Yeah, and that's very popular with men.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there is nothing worse than talking to a guy and seeing, never mind the beard or the moustache, but the hair growing down the nose.
I know, you just want to get at it, don't you?
Not really. You just want to run away.
So there's a whole area of specialist waxing that we'd like to talk about this morning, because myself and all our therapists were having a chat, and we were saying that a lot of women come into us and they would start the conversation by saying, I've got a problem.
Yeah.
And it's actually not a problem. They've got hair in areas that they think is unusual, or that they're the only person with that.
Right.
And the most popular one of that is hair around the navel area. So hair around your belly button.
Yeah.
And what you don't realise is you're probably the 10th person in that day with the exact same thing.
Right, okay.
And it only takes a couple of seconds to whip it off. Also, hair around the areolae. That's so common again.
Yeah.
You know, you're not the only person. Just go into your local salon. They'll take it off you, no problem. It's all painless nowadays, so don't be afraid. The specialist waxing is done using hot wax, and I'm going to let Emma explain the technicalities of hot wax, because even the name hot wax makes it sound painful, and it's not.
Okay, Emma, over to you. Hot waxing.
Hot waxing has actually been around a long time, but it's actually coming back, well, I suppose, back into fashion now with specialised waxing.
Yeah.
And where they really differ with your old methods of waxing, using your strip, which would be well used to trying to rip that strip off, and that's when all the hells come. Hot wax is actually designed, it's 20 degrees hotter than your traditional strip wax, which helps to open the neck of the follicle, which allows an easier removal of the hair, but it also grips around the hair. You don't use any strips. The wax actually hardens and grips to the hair, the root of the hair itself, which allows a much easier exit of the hair basically from the follicle itself, and no strips, nothing like that. You're nowhere near as uncomfortable or sore or red after it. And it's actually, when it's done properly, a much quicker and a much nicer experience to your salon, because there's been loads of horror stories over the years, and I had girls come in with home jobs and home kits with strips still attached to them, panicking, going, how can I get this on? So it's a much easier and a much nicer way to keep everything nice and neat and clean.
And of course, I mean, there's so many different areas. I mean, because the body is effectively covered in hair anyway. I mean, there's hair on everyone's face, hair on everyone's arms, the lip area. I mean, we're just hairy creatures by nature, but we don't really like to show off all this hair.
That's it. So I always said the person who can invent a way to get us hair free quick will be the richest person in the world, because it's not one of us that doesn't have a battle with hair in an area of one part of our body every single day. But at the same time, there's nothing to be ashamed of. We're all in that boat together, and we all want to be rid of it. It's just getting the most pain-free way to actually do it in that way. And regarding your specialised waxing, when it comes down to your traditional areas in your bikinis, your Californians, your Brazilians and your Hollywood, it is very important that you actually go to a specialised waxing therapist, because it's a completely different method than trying to wax a leg. You're not going to wax your leg in your bikini in the same method at all, and it makes a big difference to the outcome. And that's why you'll see your differences in your results with it. It's a completely different technique, it's a completely different method altogether, and that's where you get the better results, when you actually do make sure that you're going to a specially trained therapist for these areas in particular.
Absolutely, because that way you're going to have it done properly, rather than you do me and I'll do you type of thing.
And
which is what girlfriends do. Well, I mean waxing, that is. Hair, where else is unusual places for that you wouldn't normally think of?
Okay, a really common one, and this is one that's kind of, you can look at it in a funny way, or, you know, it can be serious for some people, and it causes a dilemma for us as beauty specialists. When you're having a pedicure done, pretty much every woman I've ever met has hair on their toes.
Yeah, I do, on my big toe.
Yeah, it's usually on the big toe. You might have 3 or 4 or 5, you might have a little bunch of hair. And for us, do we say, would you like me to whip that off while I'm doing the pedicure? Or do we say nothing? Is it something that you don't care about? You haven't even noticed it yourself, and so on. But everybody has it. So when you're next in your local salon and you're having a pedicure, if you've got a hairy toe, if you just say to them, can you pop that off for me? There's no charge for that. It's part of a pedicure anyway. But for us, it's something that we wouldn't like to draw anyone's attention to, in case that they haven't even noticed it. But the service is always there whenever you're having a pedicure. So if you don't want any hair on your toes, just let us know.
Well, do you know, it's something I wouldn't actually think of asking if I was having a pedicure. I wouldn't actually think of asking to have it removed. It wouldn't kind of be there in my mind. So
I know, it's the same,
If I was kind of asked, I'd say, oh God, yeah, by all means, take it off, no bother, you know.
And we would always love to say, can we take that off? Because it makes the job we do even prettier. You know, when we do your toes and put your diamonds on and so on. And if we noticed even little fine hairs, we'd love to take them off because it finishes it properly. But it's not something really that, because if you say that to the wrong person, you know, you could get your head bitten off you really quickly.
What hair? What are you talking about?
Exactly.
No hair on my toes.
I like hairy toes. You know, everyone is different. So look, if anyone wants to have that done when they're having a pedicure, just say, and we'd be delighted to take it off you.
Yeah. Okay, that's a fairly good idea.
There's another very common question we get asked, particularly in the bikini area, which is, you know, the way a lot of people have tattoos.
Yeah.
And yes, hair does grow through a tattoo.
Does it?
Yeah. And also, it's no problem in waxing it. It doesn't affect the tattoo at all. So if you've got a tattoo in an area where you want waxed and so on, it makes absolutely no odds.
I didn't realise that. I mean, you know, you'd see guys and they'd have well, women do it too, but mostly fellas would have a lot of, where they get a lot of tattoos. You never really notice the hair growing through them.
Yeah, because you're focused on the tattoo, because usually the colours are so strong and so on. But for a lot of women have a tattoo just at the start of the bikini area, where it's just peeking out, and it's you know, some of them are really beautiful, but it's no problem for us to wax that area, so never be afraid to ask.
So a very safe thing to do. So I mean, the thing is, girls, you know, it's coming up spring, summertime. We're going to be looking at getting ourselves into shape. for basically bikini time in the sunshine and everything like that. When it comes to waxing, can you go and sunbathe as per normal afterwards?
You're better off waiting 24 hours.
Yeah.
And before you get waxed in any salon, you always have to have a little patch test. Usually you don't need an appointment. You certainly don't need an appointment with us to have a patch test. Just pop your head in the door. We'll do it for you. It only takes 2 minutes. And then 24 hours after that, you can get waxed.
Great. And I mean, if somebody was allergic, I mean, what's the alternative?
Threading.
Right.
And threading's a really popular way of getting rid of hair, particularly facial hair. You know, if you're coming in at lunchtime and you have to go back to work and you don't want your upper lip waxed, and, you know, we can thread it for you, no problem.
Great. I've seen that done, I suppose, just on the TV, but I've never actually seen it done. Is it sore? It looks sore.
No, it's not. It depends on who does it.
Yeah.
It really does. It depends on who does it. Grace in our Sandyford salon specialises in that.
Right.
And literally she gets a long piece of thread, puts it between her teeth and ties the thread into like a triangle, and she works along like that very quickly. To have your upper lip threaded takes about, I suppose, 3 or 4 minutes, and to get an eyebrow shape done with threading is the most efficient way of getting a superb shape.
Wow.
Yes.
Sounds great. It sounds absolutely super. Listen, give us your contact details there, Sue, if people want to get in touch with you.
Sure. If you want to contact Carrickmines, browncow and Carrickmines, the number is 294 5541, and browncow Sandyford is 207 4784. And if you'd like to check out all our treatments and so on, if you go to www.browncow.ie.
Excellent stuff. Emma, good to see you again.
Thanks a million. Thank you very much.
And Sue, pleasure to have you in studio with us yet again.
Thanks for having me.